Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host, Dividend Dave. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. Super excited for this episode. Joining me, you've probably seen him on Twitter, X, at Grater U. I believe you said, Richard, please go ahead and give yourself an introduction.
Sure. Hi, Dave. I'm Richard McLean, and I'm creator of Grater U. And first, I just want to say thanks, Dave, for having me on. This is pretty exciting. Haven't even used my camera on my laptop yet. I've done everything I've been doing just off my phone, and this is to be able to do one of these podcasts. I've listened to lots, but I've never been on one, and haven't even watched that many. So pretty excited about this. But anyway, yeah, I've started out. I'm a truck driver. Been doing that 20, 30 years of my life, and the first 5 years of it, I guess, I went a little too hard. I went from like Sunday afternoons to Saturday afternoons, just go. And really the only thing that stopped me was sleep. And at that time, years and years ago, there was pills for that. So we stayed awake a lot, and you just work your guts out. And I was just starting out, so I had a great time doing it. But after about 5 years, I started realizing, you know what, there's got to be more to life than this. It's just work. And there's got to be something else or something more. So one night I fell asleep, put the truck off in the ditch. Luckily, it was wintertime, just nicely, gently over to its side, barely even hurt anything at all in the fender. And after that woke me up. So I got out of here and I headed west, like everybody in the East Coast, head west. That's right. Get out there, and I come across a book. Well, I'll say Robert Kiyosaki's. I'm a big kind of fan of his. Is the Rich Dad Poor Dad. And the thing about that book that blew me away was they told the story of this. He's from Hawaii, and he told the story of this small town's a little village of water. So they put a contract out for water, and there's two families. One went and grabbed a bunch of buckets, and they started lugging the water. The other ones took off. The guy took off. And where'd he go? Well, they brought the other guy was lugging the buckets, and he thought, you know what? That other guy left. So I'm going to hire more people to keep this going. Meanwhile, that guy went out, and he found some contractors. And he came back, and he built a pipeline. And for some reason, that clicked in my head, the difference. Like, totally changed how I thought about money. Instead of exchanging your time for it all the time, did you actually go build something? I started reading a few more of his books, and then I started playing the cash flow game. And that game basically taught me how to look at different types of investments to see if it's worth putting time and money into, and just to analyze a little bit. And played that game a lot. And after that, I started looking for assets. And of course, he teaches a lot on real estate. So I started looking into that, and always had the money together and was ready to pull the trigger, but just couldn't quite do it. The big fella upstairs had different plans for me. Put me back east, back home again, in love with my first true love that I was ever with. And we were united back together again. And then I started looking at assets again, knowing we got to spend a future together, and I got to get out of the job, and we need to spend more time. So Robert Kiyosaki also has an advisor, and he was to deal with to stocks. And he said, you cash flow stocks like real estate. You could rent out stocks. And I never heard tell that before. I didn't realize that was something. So I started looking into that. But man, oh man, that was some deep stuff, like heavy trading and all that. And it just right over my head, and really wasn't for me. It was just too much. I've been used to just driving a truck. I mean, take on a lot of education. I made it through grade 12, but that's about it. Well, then popped up this podcast, Tyrone Jackson, and it was trading stocks made easy. So that was to bring in cash flow every month, like you would with real estate. Passive income. Perfect. So I started studying his stuff, and which started out, of course, was all dividends. That's what we're all doing it for anyways, the dividends. That's the true passive income. You might just have to check
the most passive of all passive incomes, right?
Yeah, that's the key, passive income. I don't care where you get it from, here, there, wherever, but whatever excites you, whatever you're studying, going into, passive. That's just like a passive posse. That's why I was excited to be on here, and I kind of knew I was coming on here. I just didn't know when. But yeah, it's the passive income stuff, man. So yeah, that's some of my story anyway. Mostly I've been trading and starting out investing, and then just start trading as I go, because the amount of money I make, it's going to take me a long time to invest enough, and I kind of want to get this done quicker. So I thought, hey, I'll just start learning how to trade, and I just learned from listening. Well, I'm in a truck all day. I can listen all day. So work with what you got, I guess. So that that's kind of where I'm at.
I think a key point there too is, 25 years ago in trucking, you could easily kind of doctor your logbook, whereas today with the e-logs, you just can't do that. Like the electronic logbooks, they know exactly where you are at all times. But yeah, 25, 30 years ago, you could just kind of be like, yeah, and you get pulled over by MTO or DOT, and they're like, how did you go 600 miles in the last 2 hours? And you're like, magic, right?
Yeah, 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 exactly. Well, actually, even back then, because of the type of trucking I'm doing, it's logging, and I'm in the woods. You bet you never even seen those guys around back then. You just go like crazy. Nothing. If you
Right.
did see them, you hid from them. You made sure they didn't see you, kind of thing. But yeah, yeah. So no,
The trucking industry has definitely changed. I'm actually in purchasing and logistics, so I deal with a lot of different trucking companies and truckers and the timing and deliveries and pickups and all of that sort of thing. So I don't know the job from behind the wheel, although I do drive a little bit just around town in a just a hydraulic brake cab over truck. So I do get out behind the wheel a little bit, but for the most part, I don't have the experience that someone like you has over the road, right?
yeah. I was chucking lumber for a while, and then I seen these trucks coming in. I'm like, what am I doing? I can just be driving around. Plus, I'm one of those guys that kind of grew up around it in the industry here. I'm in like probably the largest mill that's in New Brunswick. This is where I work from. So it's just kind of what was around me at the time, which really has a lot to do with life too, where you're at and the people that you're around. And that has a big effect on you as well. That's why I've been so excited with this thing. This back on X here, in November, I started to actually start engaging with people and just starting to get around some people, because everybody I talk to, I mean, I'm in a small town and nobody's really motivated to do, I shouldn't say not motivated to do, but when I start speaking about stocks and trading, all that stuff, there's a lot of glazed eyes a little bit, right? So I don't communicate a whole lot yet. And more, that might be part of my own problem too, just for not getting out there and not speaking to a lot of people. But anyway, this has been a great little experience the last 2 or 3 months just on X, just communicating with other people and getting a chance to meet you and a whole bunch of other people on here that have been so supportive and doing the things that I do. Like when I first went on X and started looking on there, I'm like, hey, look at that. I know what they're talking about. I see what they're doing and I know what they're talking about. It was awesome. Yeah, it got me pumped just to communicate
for
on
sure.
investing with other people. Yeah.
And I definitely appreciate how much you've engaged with me over the last few months on Twitter as well. It's been a lot of fun. So quickly though, before we get any further, I do want to give a shout out to a very special thank you to Millionaire Mentorship for sponsoring this episode of the Passive Income Podcast. Millionaire Mentorship with Abundantly Erica will teach you everything you need to know about options trading, from covered calls to cash secured puts and everything else involved in options trading. Millionaire Mentorship has you covered. Use the link in the description below to get started today. Which is kind of a nice segue into asking about options trading. Is that something that's part of what you do, or is that something that you are not into?
I just started out with the investing part, because when I first started, I didn't have any money. I didn't have good money habits at all. A lot of debt and some addictions and all kinds of stuff in the road there kind of stopped me from doing too much productive. So I was just looking to invest in the beginning. But then as it come on, talking about these calls, covered calls, I didn't want to be option trading. That sounded too much, like way too much. But a covered call, that didn't sound so bad. Sounded like I didn't need to know a whole lot, just a little bit. And that's probably the number one thing I would call for any options that I'm using. It's just covered calls. That would be the biggest one. I don't buy them back that often. It's just, well, you know what it's like? It's like renting. It's like having a house. You're gonna rent this place out. That's the same as buying the stock. You gotta have 100 of them, 100 shares of them to do this. But it's like having a little house. And you rent it out to somebody for, we'll say, a month. Well, they pay you that rent up front. Then at the end of the month, they get the option, because it's options. They get the option to either buy it from you for a profit or walk away, and you turn it out and rent it out again to somebody else. That clicked in my head. I'm like, because the initial to get into it, I didn't need to have a house down payment for a house. Like I didn't need all that big money. And really, maybe not the trading part, but to get started, I didn't take any money. I just started writing down on paper, pick some stocks after learning from Tyrone, pick some stocks, go through, write them down on paper, and about 6 or 8 months later, check them, and they're up $200 or $300. No, I didn't have any money. You don't even need money to start. If you just want to see what it's all about, right? You just write it down on paper. which is funny because they do call it paper trading, but anyway, like when you don't actually use your own money. So I did that. I did that with the investing part, and that kind of, okay, this might work. And then I tried it with the covered calls. I wrote out, for a year. I covered called with no money for a year, just on paper, just to try it out, just to see if this was real, to be honest, just to test the waters. Yeah.
Right.
And and then after I started with like $3,000, I think $3,000 or $4,000 is what I initially started with. And I don't know. I think first ones were, what did I start trading with? I want to say BSX, and another one that was fit the qualifications at that time anyway, and $70, $75, I think it was, something like that. But just the fact to be able to do that, to rent that stock out, just a concept I never heard tell it before. But so as far as the options trading, I do that. There's another one, volatility trading, but that's just buying and selling stock. It's funny you mentioned Erica there. I listen to her quite a bit too, and it's funny. I almost want to ask her if she listens to the same guy I do, because there's a lot of similarities in some of the things she talks about, like the 15 minutes at the end of the day. That's what she goes in. Like, well, yeah, that's what I was taught too for the volatility trading. But yeah, it's as far as the options, I see puts. A lot of guys are doing the puts and stuff. Ooh, I don't know nothing about that stuff. I just know the covered calls, and I can buy the call back. And I did study a little bit with the leaps, which is just a covered call longer than a month. It goes like a whole year. And the next step is spreads. That is something on my list. I think the next year I want to get better at, or learn more about, get my account set up for, because that's for when things go down. And in the down market for a year, you can only do so many things when things are up, and the profits drop down a little bit when they're lower. So I kind of want to get really good at the low side, just to be covered. But
no, and that makes sense. Right? That makes 100% sense. Just go with what you know, learn a little bit more each day, and be comfortable with what you're doing. Don't go and bet the farm on something where you're not sure. You've got to know what you're doing, and especially in things like options trading and covered calls and cash secured puts and everything involved there in the options field. And honestly, I also have an absolute boatload to learn about it. I've had so many people on here that talk about it, and I get the terminology, and I kind of understand the terminology, but at the end of the day, yeah, I'm not there yet either, and it's definitely something I need to learn more about as well. For that semi-passive income, like, I've had many people say that to me as well. It's like, it's not passive income the way dividends are, but it's semi-passive if you can get it down to, just working at it maybe 2, 4, 6, 10 hours a week max. If you're working at something 10 hours a week and making whatever, 2-4 grand in a week, that's very semi-passive income, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at first, of course, like anything, like a rocket ship to take off, takes a lot to get it up. But once it's up and going, it's a little easier. Yeah, exactly. And all on a freaking phone. I would have thought that. I've done it all, like 98% of it. Just I use my phone, and wherever. So it's pretty wild, especially when you go to look back. Same as yourself when you first started investing. Like, you think of your mindset at that time when you first started to what it is now. It's exciting to see. Like, every now and then, you just got to look back and go, oh yeah, that's right. I remember what that was like back then and how I thought. And wow,
back in the 90s, we didn't have apps on our phones and everything at our fingertips, right? Like, we just didn't have that.
No, that's right too, because you're probably somewhere in the same age, I think, as myself. Yep.
Yeah, I'm good. We can talk about that off camera. We don't need to dox ourselves right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I think most people know how old I am. I've been pretty open about it. I'm 50 right now. I'll be turning 51 in May. So So I definitely am old enough to remember even the 87 crash, even though I was like a teenager. But yeah, in the 90s and early 2000s, I remember all the crashes and the dot-com bubble and the housing market crash and all the history, right?
So was you investing at that time? Yeah. Like, when did you start your
investing? That's a whole long story that I've told on many other podcasts. So you'll have to go and look up those.
Yeah. I'll catch the rest of it then. Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, what does your portfolio look like? Now, we've really kind of alluded to dividends, and that is definitely one of my most favorite topics is, dividends just show me the money. And I get the argument of the total growth versus the dividends, and where a company could, if they're not paying the dividend, they could be putting that cash flow into a plethora of other things. But at the end of the day, I just like to see that dividends, that cash dollar amount show up in my brokerage account every whether it's every month or every quarter, right? So I guess what I'm getting to is what does your dividend portfolio look like right now? Like, you're Canadian, so I'm guessing you have probably a lot of like, I don't know, Canadian banks, Bell, Enbridge, just throwing out some of the more popular ones. Anything?
To be honest, Dave, the guy that I started learning from, he's from the States. So I kind of stuck. I did start trading a little bit in the beginning, or not trading, but started investing. When I first started out, it was Bell Canada. That's what I went into. And I don't know how much I put in, but every 3 months, I remember this because I got $15 every 3 months. And at that time, it was a 6-pack of beer. So I remember being so happy and excited, like, hey, look what the stock market got me. And it was a 6-pack of beer after 3 months. Yeah. So I was pretty pumped about that. And that was with Bell. And then I started realizing when I did transfer into the States and start looking at more dividend stocks down there and stocks to trade down there, I kept going back and forth. So I was doing exchange all the time. Each trade I was doing the exchange, and I wasn't making no money because I was losing it all in the exchange, transferring back and forth,
The
back and forth. So
exchange
now,
rate between the Canadian and US dollars, you mean?
yeah, that was horrible at the time. I'm like, where is all my money going? Like, okay, that's why I keep switching back and forth. So now I just focus down the States, and I'm starting to learn a lot more about Canadian stocks ever since I've been on X for sure. A lot more stocks, but I've just been investing in the US right now, and my portfolio is sitting right now at 400 Apple, and Apple would be my dividend. But I've been trading it too, right? So the idea with what Tyrone teaches is you're trading to buy dividend paying stocks, and that's the whole idea is for the dividend, and you build it up. So you let the market pay for to help you build up your account. So you trade to buy these stocks, but I really, for this last year, I just went straight into trading pretty much. And I gave up the option of having those dividends to use them for trading. But it was to get to the goal of kind of where I'm at now to have, 400 shares, but really 300. I got 100 on margin right now, but really around 300, and 100 of those will be just for dividends. And then I'll move forward and keep trading the rest. But it's kind of my plan. And down the road, I'm going to put more and more towards the dividends. But right now I'm trying to get the account up to a bigger size, like we all are, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that is the goal, right? Like, make it as big as possible so that you can, someday stop. Are you still driving truck?
Oh yeah, I am. I just
Yeah,
I just finished today, and this is our busy season because in about another 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to get soft, and then they're going to shut the roads off, and we'll be down for a month. So I do 6 days a week, 12-hour days here for another 2 or 3 weeks anyway. But yeah, then I'll be off for a month and then back at it again. But the beautiful thing about the driving I'm in the woods a lot, and I've been doing this so long now, I can kind of do it in my sleep. And a lot of time in the woods we have wide spots we pull into and wait for traffic to come. Well, nowadays there's signal almost everywhere. Or a lot of places there's a lot of signal, so I can get on. I'm on my phone quite a bit, so it's been really good that way.
That's another great thing too. Like, obviously drivers are waiting to be loaded, waiting to be offloaded. So that downtime, you're right, you can sit on your phone while in the cab of your truck, and you can be on, whether it's on X or on whatever brokerage account you use, and kind of do, filling in your day that way, like maximizing your time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, from there, to me, what I think of it is, I got the channel. I'm listening to music. Well, I'm just going to change the channel a little bit and improve my future. Kind of a thought. Like,
Yeah.
I could just listen to music all day or whatever. No, I'm going to start listening to podcasts. I'm going to start studying, start learning. Just a little bit at first because it didn't feel right. Like I want to listen to my music. But after a while, I don't even listen to music now. I just studying a podcast, like not all day long, but pretty much a lot of the day. So it's just a matter of changing your channel a little bit and start heading that way. But no,
yeah, honestly, even like I've said, I've just, do a little bit of deliveries and pickups around town as part of my, it's not even really my job, but I just do it to help out the company. And many times where it's like, yeah, I'm waiting at a dock, and you know what, I'm just going to log into Well Simple, buy a stock, log out, and I'm good. Right? Like,
yeah.
and I've done that so many times, too many times. I can't count how many times I've done that.
It's a beautiful thing because I think like when we were growing up, I had no clue about any of this stuff. This is for people who had money and They were
Right.
those people over there, and I'm just employee worker. Like I never ever thought never even crossed my mind. Never been around anybody that actually invested. So it was, it's pretty exciting now that we can. Like before, I think you had to go and you'd have to go through a brokerage, but we couldn't just go on our phones and do it. You'd have to hire a guy, and then they'd hire a guy. Anyway, it was, I think it was a bigger pain in the butt compared to what it is now.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. The '90s were not fun to try to invest in the '90s. Yeah, you needed a lot of money. You needed to call a stockbroker, and you needed to pay the stockbroker a gigantic commission on a buy or a sell. So it's so much easier now. Like everything is on your phone for the most part. A lot of the brokerage accounts, it's free commission or $0 commission or very very low, like $1.99 maximum. Maybe some of them are $2.99 or whatever, but it's just it's changed so much and for the better now. Anyone with a dollar can start investing in the stock market, right? Like literally $1, you can buy a fractional share of a lot
Yeah,
of different,
fractional
not every
shares.
company, but a game changer.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild.
Absolute game changer.
I see it all the time. Here's $5, $5, five. Like people put money. That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
every little bit counts. So yeah, that's
that's
I'm
right.
with Scotia Bank, which is I've never seen anybody else talk about trading or being invested with Scotia, but they were down the road or like not far from where I live. So I figured, that's who I should go with.
Yeah.
I don't know. Been all right. I'm not sure. I haven't done a lot of comparing around. If I was just investing, I think I would be looking at other places, but I've gotten to this far with the account. So to move and change to something else, it's going to take a little bit probably. So from the options trading, because there is a few different levels you got to qualify for. But once you start listening to stuff, it's pretty easy to qualify. But it was just to get my account set up the way I want it. And this was the first year I actually got it set up the way I wanted, where I applied for margin. They turned me down. My credit sucked, I guess. I don't know why they turned me down, but I applied 6 months later with just a little bit better credit, like just over 700, not much. Like it's not like going to the bank and they're going to give me a loan for a house. Nah, it was even less than that. So I was pretty excited when I got the margin anyway.
Yeah, actually, I buy shares of Scotiabank, and that is part of my turn that cash register around philosophy that
Right.
I'm sure you've heard me talk about.
Yeah.
Is my mortgage is with Scotiabank, so why wouldn't I buy shares in Scotiabank to get them to pay me back a little piece of that mortgage every 3 months, right?
That's right. And they do pay good dividends. Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, they pay good dividends. All the banks do, I think, in Canada. They pay pretty good
Yeah,
dividends and
for
pretty good
sure.
track record. They've been around a long time, paying a lot of dividends.
Bank of Montreal has been paying dividends since 1829, so
Wow.
195 years.
Look at that. Yeah. Wonder what they paid out then. Would it have been gold coins or silver coins? I wonder back then. I wonder would it be bill? Was
I've
there a bill
literally
back
thought
then?
about this though, like, you literally had to ride your horse to the bank to get your dividend. Like,
Right. Yeah, that's right. And bring your bag of coins out. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool.
and then actually, just to tag onto that, Scotiabank has been paying a dividend since 1833, so they're not far behind that 200-year anniversary as well. So I am curious though, switching gears back towards the U.S. portfolio. So I'm guessing you must hold a lot of that in your RRSP for tax purposes,
In the beginning,
or
I
you
went with the
should.
tax-free. Oh, I went in the beginning with the tax-free savings account, and you can trade your covered calls inside of there, no problem. And I mean, it's tax-free. You don't even have to read or send anything in. Just the end of the year, there's no tax information you send in that tax-free savings account. It just automatically goes to them, and they figure it all out. I really like that part. But when I went to trade leaps, they wouldn't let me do that in that account. And or maybe it was margin. I think margin. Yeah, they won't give you margin in your tax-free savings account. And I can't even have this with Scotia. This is why over the course of this year, I want to research some other companies just to see if I can do this. But they won't credit you what's in your tax-free savings account towards what you can have for margin. It has to be in the cash account. So I wanted to have margin, and I wanted to be able to trade leaps and then do some other trading. I don't think you can do that. You can't do that in your RSP or in your tax-free savings account. Covered calls, I believe you can, but any more than that, I don't believe so. I'm not 100% sure on that. It might be just the margin that I left it out for, but no, I will be going back. That's a retirement. I'm just getting the engine going to get up some good money and then start putting money away. Something
Yeah.
probably should have been doing when I was in my 20s or 30s, but hey, whatever. You go
You
from
all
where
look
you're at.
back with the
Yeah.
woulda, shoulda, coulda, right?
Yeah.
I am definitely not a tax expert, but you might want to look into that, holding holding US companies in your TFSA. Um, Again, I'm not the tax expert there, but from what I understand and what I've learned is you're much better holding US companies in your RRSP. So maybe just
right.
do some due diligence there.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not the tax expert, so not financial or tax advice by any means.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Oh, that's the big part, right? Taxes. And that's the part of doing this stuff that I looked into. Like we're playing with capital gains. We're not employees anymore. We're not getting taxed like employees. We're in capital gains now. So that's half. Like right off the bat, whatever you make, half it is all they're going to tax you on. Yeah, no wonder it takes so long to do anything when you're paid as an employee. When you can do this,
Right.
like I mean, it's a big difference. Taxes, and it's not
Yeah.
taught in school. I think that's the part that got me when I first found out about trading or even with investing and stuff. Well, actually, just with assets, the difference between an asset and a liability, I couldn't believe it. Like, what? Why didn't nobody tell me about this? I actually got a little upset, and that's kind of why I started to build the channel. Is to just to get that out there. I was a little upset. Like, why didn't nobody tell me? You imagine the amount of like the lives can be changed with just a little bit of like you don't even need a full 2-year course or nothing. Just a little bit to get you pointing in the direction.
Just a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah. I don't, not that I paid a lot of attention in school, but if I did, if somebody mentioned this to me, said, hey, you can either work a job and pour everything into that, or you can go and work on an asset and build that up and that'll look after you the rest of your life. I might have made some different decisions back then. So the reason I have the channel, I think basically that's the motivator behind it. I've got no courses to sell or anything like that. I just, my free time, I kind of want to get this out and just give people the option anyway. Say, hey, not interested? That's great, but here, you got to at least take a look because it could change your life.
And when you say the channel, you're referring to your YouTube channel?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Grater You, the YouTube channel. Yeah. It's just where I share everything that I've been doing right along. And just right from when I first started trading, I built it and then, oh, look at that. There it is. Yeah.
And there it is, Grater You. I
Yep.
will definitely link this in the description below. Go and check out Grater You on YouTube. I see you've got tons of videos here.
Yeah. And I wanted to keep them pretty simple because, well, I am.
And look at how easy this is, people. All you got to do is just hover over this and just go click. See how easy that is? It's so easy and it's free. That didn't cost me a dime.
And it's free.
So, people do that.
Awesome, Dave. Well, thank you. Yeah, no, I just made the channel and I kept it pretty simple because, in all honesty, probably I didn't really start growing up till I hit about 40. Somewhere through there, I started smartening up. Like, oh, right, I'm probably supposed to be doing these things. I remember as a kid, I kept telling myself, I never want to be an adult, and it took me a long time to actually be one. So yeah.
And I can relate to that. I can definitely relate to that. We had a lot of fun in our 20s and 30s and into our 40s. And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I need to think about where I'm going to be in my 60s, right? Like,
yeah, some forward thinking just wasn't around before. It was daily. That's about it. Yeah. So where are you from, Dave? Are you from BC?
I lived in BC for a lot of years. I'm originally born in Ontario, lived in BC for 15 years, and then moved back to Ontario about 10 years ago. So,
okay.
But I've been almost everywhere in Canada. I've been to New Brunswick many times. Beautiful, beautiful province. I love New Brunswick as well.
Yeah, you mentioned something about snowboarding. So it's probably BC, maybe. Yeah, and I've
those were my BC days of all my snowboarding. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. I've never tried. I tried it once, and nope. I got no balance that way. I just stuck with the skis. But what a blast, though! It's good fun. I love that. The slopes.
Yeah, just the outdoor fresh air in the mountains. There's absolutely nothing like mountain fresh air. Just keeps you young for sure. Yeah. With that though, let's get back into all those US companies that you hold, and you mentioned Apple, and I'm just kind of curious what, I don't know, I'm just going to throw out a whole bunch of names here, like Tesla, Home Depot, McDonald's, Walmart, Costco, or
Cost.
anything, Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson. Like there's so many great US companies that it's literally an endless list. They could just go on forever and ever, or so it seems.
Yeah.
Or then there's something like SCHD or VU where you can just dump it all into an index fund or ETF and have a little piece of the pie of all of the Coca-Cola, Pepsi. I didn't even get to those two yet. Like,
Right.
how many companies did I just name off the top of my head, right?
Yep.
All US companies, all great dividend paying stocks, all, big fan favorites on Twitter
Oh
slash
yeah.
X.
Yeah. Costco for
So I don't
sure.
know. Any thoughts on anything that I just mentioned there? I'll throw it back to you.
Costco and Home Depot, two of the big ones down there. I had some positions in those. Yeah, and they're both, to look at their chart, and that's where we start with, as a 5-year. They're just steady. Same as Visa. Visa, another good one, like a steady chart. So
Yeah.
I guess a little mixture more of growth and dividend with some of these, where you get your AT&T and your Coca-Cola and Pepsi would be more stronger in the dividend, a little bit less in the growth. But yeah, there's some great companies down there. I mean, great companies up here too. But Home Depot and
Yeah, for
Costco,
sure.
I mean, Costco they've got a beautiful chart, and it makes sense. If you've got to pay to be in the club before you even buy anything, that's a pretty good deal on the other side. I mean, not if you're the one paying, maybe, but that's a great way to start a company. Here, get all these millions of dollars, haven't even sold a product. It's pretty smart club that they got going on there. So that pours right into their upward all the time, plus all the deals. And what was the other part with them? Pricing. Their pricing. They've only got like 10 prices. That's it. So they can track everything really well that comes in. Like, oh, we did really good at $5.99, all the products that we're in. Like, I never knew that before, but I guess all their pricing is all they can track it better. So the logistics of
Yeah, that
Costco is
makes
really
sense,
powerful.
actually. I've never thought of that before, but you're right. You walk into a Costco and most products are going to be $5.99. Probably the next price point is either $7 or $8.99. And then I
Yeah.
know $11.99 is probably the majority of products in Costco are probably at that $11.99 price point, right? And then up from there. But
Yeah. Except they're hot dogs. But yeah.
the hot dog, $1.50, $1.50.
And they're good hot dogs. It's like real meat, it seems like. Yeah, I've had a
Yeah.
few of them, and they're good. Yeah. That's Home Depot, or sorry, that's Costco, Home Depot, Lowe's. It goes with Home Depot, I guess. Visa, MasterCard, like these are just, oh, pick this one or this one. Well, no, you can have them both. I mean, they're both in the same. Well, Visa, MasterCard, they're like the toll keepers, the toll gate to the internet, right? So that's kind of the way to think of them. Like, you can't get on there without paying them a little bit first. And they're not even a company. I always thought they were a company. I thought Visa was like a bank and MasterCard was a bank. Nah, they're just a good marketing company that works with the banks and stuff. They're not. They don't have the money.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just so much to learn about all these companies, and it was so interesting. I don't know why, but I seem to dig in. It was so interesting to hear all this. Just, you look at a company and think, oh, well, that's what it is, and they do that. But then you start learning about them more. It's like, wow, there's so much more to these companies, and so much more to the management and stuff in behind, how things work, and it's kind of interesting to see. Yeah.
Awesome. This has been really fun, and I definitely want to keep going here for at least a few more minutes. Definitely interested though about, I guess, your breakdown though. It sounds like, we talked about dividends off the top. We've talked about a bunch of different US companies. Sounds like, I don't know, maybe you still have or had or going to look at some more Canadian companies, which is all honestly in my opinion, a really good mix. Having some great Canadian companies, whether it's the Canadian banks or the telecoms like Bell and Telus, and then having some of these US companies that you just mentioned, like your Costco's and whatnot. And do you see that your portfolio evolving in the future to kind of have that balance of the dividend paying companies from both countries,
Yeah, because see,
as
the
you're still
Canadian.
growing with the trading as well, right?
Yeah. Oh no, for sure, Dave. The Canadian side companies, for one, I'm not paying the tax. You don't, like, when the dividends out of the States, they are getting taxed when they come up through, but in Canada, it's not the same. So yes, there's definitely more of a benefit there, plus the exchange and all that stuff too. So no, for sure. I've just been putting most of my muscle, I guess you could call it, into the US and into the trading part. But like you said, as time goes on, and and I start focusing more on dividends, start putting a little bit more, then I will branch out more into Canadian dividends and stuff too. I have before. I've had like I have looked into Bell, and did carry Bell for a while, and there was a few other companies too. Just trying to think now. There were some of them. Enbridge, I think maybe might have been one of them. There was some of the energy ones too that I had for a little bit, but it was the Bell that that really, because I had the phone, right? I had the phone. I'm like, well, if it's something I've got,
turn that cash register around. I'm paying Bell.
turn it
Why wouldn't
around.
I get them to pay me back a little bit of my cell phone bill, right?
That's right.
That's exactly my mindset for, the top three that I've been dollar cost averaging into the last year has been Bell Canada, because I pay my cell phone to them, Scotiabank because I pay my mortgage to them, and Hydro One because here in Ontario, almost everyone, like 98% of Ontarians, pay their electric bill to Hydro One. So why wouldn't I get a little piece of that back every 3 months, right?
That's right. No, that's right, Dave. And that just makes sense. Like you said, that, they're doing good. Everybody's paying them. Can't go wrong there. Yeah. No, there's a lot of
exactly.
there's a lot of good Canadian companies, and I think just because of who my the mentor was out of the US, or he is, I should say, that I just kind of focus more on the US, and that be my bubble kind of a bit. So I've never really seen a whole lot in the Canada side. I know it's horrible as a Canadian, but I kind of focus more on that. But now that I've been on X, I've been starting to see a lot more and starting to understand more of the Canadian side of stuff too. And so many people investing on Canadian stuff, and it's pretty exciting to know that there's so many more other companies, great companies at that, like really good companies.
They're just, again, I named off all of those American companies, which are great investments, and anybody that's getting into them, again, obviously not financial advice, but hey, you're going to probably do well in all of those companies that I mentioned, the Coca-Colas and Home Depots and McDonald's and Walmarts. But you're right, on this side of the border, there's an absolute plethora of great Canadian companies as well. As I alluded to, the Canadian banks are definitely, again, fan favorites on Twitter, but then, you've got your Enbridges and your well, maybe not so much Suncor anymore, but it's still a bit of a fan favorite. And, Algonquin Power kind of fell out of favor when they sliced their dividend there a year or so ago, but
yeah,
that's part of it as well.
Yeah,
yeah, the dividend cuts do hurt.
Oh, that makes everybody run away some quick. Look at Disney. How many years ago it was? I did have Disney shares as well for a little bit, and then before they cut the dividend, Tyrone had mentioned, he said we're taking it out of the loop, and just to kind of pull back from that. So I completely got out of it, and a little bit later on they cut the dividend, and then everybody else leaves too. Yeah. So the dividends for trading, well, just dividend anyway. It kind of seemed like a kite. Like when you fly a kite, like the way I look at it anyway, you got a kite flying. Well, if you got a dividend, that's like that tail that hangs down. So that keeps it straight. But if you don't have that dividend, that thing's all over the place. So that's another good part about the dividends, right? Like it's a steady eddy if it has a dividend. And if it does drop, it's not going to fall right out of the ground, gone. It just drops a little bit, $10, $15 maybe, and then comes back up again, because there's big institutions. They like that money when there's dividend money coming in, right? So that's the exciting part with dividends. It's a steady eddy. So I only trade now pretty much 95% of it is just going to be dividend for a while. I wouldn't say burned, but I did try a few that were non-dividend paying, like Pinterest was one. And that was some trading I was doing with them, and woo, what a blast. And then I didn't get out in time, and I didn't know any better, and I just watched it drop and where it went. And anyway, what do you do?
Yeah.
And you know that going in with trading, that I'm going to lose, but I'm going to win too. So the losing, you're not really losing, you're just learning. So I called it a turd stock.
And hoping that those wins outweigh the losses, right? That's the whole key to the game.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No, and I love what you're doing.
And believe me, I've been there too with like holding way too long, thinking, well, if I just hold a little bit longer, maybe it'll. And even to this day, I've got a bunch in my portfolio where I'm holding them kind of on a wing and a prayer that they're going to go back up to at least maybe break even. But at the same time, you've got the winners on the other side of the ledger, so you don't feel as bad.
Right.
But you do still feel bad. You're like, if I had just sold that when it was at like an all-time high, but you can't time the market. It's like, oh, of course you always want to sell when it's at an all-time high, but you almost never do, right? Because you just don't know that it's the all-time high.
Not till later. No, that's right. Yeah. And you feel, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, you buy a stock. oh boy, this is going to be great. Then as soon as you buy it, it's like you cause it to drop almost, but then it comes back later. But still, that
He's
initial
like
part, man.
guilty. It feels like every one of us on Twitter feel like we have the same story. It's like, if you want to get the stock lower price, don't worry. I just bought it. It's going to be a lower price tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a feeling, that gut feeling. It's like, oh, what are we going to do now? Like, see, right now, even like one nice thing with trading, like Apple, I followed it in. I did really well with Apple last year. And at the end of the year, I followed it when it went up. And then I didn't get out and it dropped down, but it's down 10 or 12 bucks.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not selling. I just keep trading. It's just the trading isn't as profitable now. That's all. And that's the nice part about it. But it sure would be nice if it come back up again, and it will, just time. And that's just part of the whole thing. Learning this whole stock thing is just the emotional side of it and the mental, and just to relax. It's all good. It's going to happen for you.
Just relax. It's all good. So we've talked about Apple, and Apple's obviously one of the biggest tech stocks. And just yesterday, as we're recording yesterday, I think this is going to come out in a few days, but NVIDIA earnings call, which was, I want to say, very well received. So I don't know, any thoughts on NVIDIA and the tech sector, and how NVIDIA alone affected the NASDAQ over yesterday and today? Any thoughts there?
Wow. What a friggin' morning. I don't have any money or nothing in NVIDIA, but what was it? 103 it jumped today. I think at the end of it, $103. Yeah, I've never seen that before. Like 20, maybe 15, 20 is the most I've ever seen, like a stock rocket up a little bit. But I was like, what? Yeah, it was received. Earnings was very good. I think all that whole industry is, the AI is what they're behind, right? All the chips and stuff. They're rocking right along there pretty good. I guess.
Well, it's not just the AI, like NVIDIA and semiconductors and microchips, like it's in everything, every automobile, every everything,
Right.
Every computer, every cell phone, every iPad, every smartwatch, whether it's an Apple Watch or any other type, like everything has semiconductors and microchips in them. So NVIDIA is just laughing all the way to the bank, basically saying, yeah,
and anybody
the entire world is absolutely dependent on these now.
Pretty much, yeah. It seemed like it today. Holy frig! I've never seen a stock jump that much. That was wild, and I wonder if people knew it was going to jump that much, and they jumped in before. You always think that. Wondering, somebody did pretty good, I'm sure, today. But yeah, that was wild, and I know that's the industry a little bit. I haven't, because it doesn't pay a dividend. I haven't been into it a whole lot. I've just been kind of sticking with the dividend just because I'm still a little sore from a few years ago. So I'm just going to play it safe for a while yet. But wow, what a sector. Yeah.
What an incredible sector. And yeah, same full disclosure, I do not have anything in NVIDIA. Boy, do I wish again, one of those, if you had invested whatever, $1,000 in NVIDIA in 2014, like you'd be pretty much rich today, right?
Like it was almost like a crypto today. It almost seemed like a cryptocurrency or like a Bitcoin or something. Like, whoa, that's quite a, yeah. Yeah, you would have been, if you would have known. No, it's a exciting time to be in the market, that's for sure. And it's there's so much stuff going on, and the market as a whole coming back now after a couple of years ago, the big drop. I mean, I'm just lucky I didn't have a whole lot of money in, but I still watched what little I did go down to nothing. And that was an emotional learning lesson, about 6 or 8 months of just flat nothing, can do nothing, and just wish and hope maybe it'll come up again today. And finally the market turned around. But no, it's pretty exciting. And I want to thank you, Dave, for doing not just this with me, but for having people on that teach and that share with others, because as a whole, man, this is lifting other people up as well. Just to hear other people talking about it and to get into it and then start sharing more and more. We start bringing people that don't even have anything to do with investing. They start opening their ears up a little bit more, and they start getting excited, and then they start changing their future of their family and everything with invest. So what you're doing is changing, not just changing your own future. You're helping to change everybody that's around you, and everybody you bring on for podcasts, and all those you reach out to, and all those great people you have come on that are very educated, know a lot of things, and share some beautiful stories and help others lift them up as well.
Knowledge.
So some powerful knowledge. You've got some big heavy hitters you've had on here that have some serious accounts, and a lot of them are just young, and that's awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for saying that. I truly appreciate that, and it means so much to me because you're right. I think we're up to episode 135 as of this one right now that we're recording. And so I've talked to so many different people and I've heard so many great stories and so many different paths and different journeys. And, whether it's, real estate investing or dividend investing or options trading and all sorts of other things. I've had professional athletes on here, professional CFL football player, former NHL goaltender, minor league baseball players, and all of these people as well. Like, with that mindset of, hey, I still have to be smart with my money. Like, an NHL goaltender, played for 6 or 7 years, made a couple $1,000,000 a year for a few years, but at the end of the day, you still got to be smart with the money that you made, right? So, and
That's
you're
right.
right. Again, going back to you mentioned some of them are so young, which I've kind of nicknamed the young guns in the series on the Passive Income podcast, and some great people there, in their early 20s, 21, 22, 24, 25 in that age group, and some of them as well. Well, they're all just incredibly smart and motivated, and so I just can't say enough about all the great guests, and what you just said too is so appreciated, and I appreciate that, and thank you so much.
Oh
That's
yeah, sure,
absolutely
Dave. And
amazing.
it's great. And and you're really good at this. I can tell I've watched a few, and I just like, what am I supposed to do? I don't even know how I should. I don't do nothing. I just let you do what you're supposed to do, and you've been doing so good job at it. It makes it easy for me because this, like I said, this is the first time I've ever done one of these, and I do appreciate that. And that's yeah, it keeps me pretty pumped. And I got the cup coming, the Posse cup mug. Sorry, mug.
Oh,
I just got it
nice.
yesterday. Yeah, so it
Nice.
should be here. I don't
Passive
know,
income
3 or 4
posse.
days. Yeah, absolutely. Because I am a coffee guy too. I do like my coffee, and I do like my mugs.
Awesome. That's appreciated as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a great segue into this. Receive a free Passive Income Posse, turn that cash register around coffee mug with any purchase over 100 Canadian dollars before taxes and shipping at buyinvestingshirts.com. Use code word posse for a 5% discount on your purchase, and that link will also be in the description. But just the coffee mug alone as well isn't that expensive over there on buyinvestingshirts.com. But it is very easy to add up to that $100. Like, you get a nice hoodie like this, that's $40. A ball cap, I think, is 30. A t-shirt is another 20. You can get over $100 real fast. And Patrick has an absolute ton of great merchandise over there. Um, you know, Not just the Posse merch, but Bitcoin merch and other cryptocurrency stuff and other investing related t-shirts and coffee mugs and even baby onesies and all sorts. Just click the link in the description and go and take a look at all the different things you could buy with that 5% discount.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome.
And
Babies.
here
Yeah.
is your Twitter handle or your Twitter at company rentals, which you can change that to at greater you. I
Can
think
I?
maybe you should do that for your branding.
Thank you. I went in today. The phones went out in the States or something like that. There was a bunch of phones went out, and I couldn't get into X.
Yeah.
And I thought that was something to do with it. So I logged out. Ooh, that's a mistake. I don't think I ever logged out. It took me a good part in about a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes before we did this, that I finally got logged back in. It locked me out. I couldn't get the username wasn't right. This wasn't right because I had my password, all that stuff. I had a hard time getting back in, but okay. That's a good idea. Thanks, Dave. I will change that because I set this up quite a while ago, and I'm just doing stuff here and there and learning as I go and sharing as
Yeah.
well. So thanks for that. I will change that.
Well, now I will have the at company rentals link in the description below, so you can check out at Greater U or Greater U over there on X as well. And I highly recommend giving you a follow. Like I said, we've been engaging a lot over the last few months, and I truly appreciate you on X on that platform as well. It's
Well, thank you,
a
Dave.
lot of fun,
I look,
and again, it's super fun to support each other on Twitter. So.
yeah, this is just a whole new world, and
Whew.
it gets me pumped. It's great. I've been looking for this. Like I said, I've been in a truck a lot. Might not talk to a whole lot of people. I'm just driving around all the time, right? So just to get out and to start communicating on the same thing that I'm passionate about and doing, It is. It's really good and it's really exciting.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Awesome. Well, with that said, I see we're already at the 50-minute mark. I've truly appreciated this conversation. It's been an absolute blast talking to you, talking about, different investing strategies, different kind of, work environments, what's gotten you to where you are today. And like I said, the links will be in the description below for your YouTube channel and your Twitter/X handle as well. So thank you so much for coming on and spending time with me here on the Passive Income Podcast.
Thank you, Dave, for having me on. And I look forward to helping you get to that 100,000 subscribers end of this year. Big goal,
Exactly.
man.
Yeah.
It's a big goal.
Subscribe.
Okay.
We're still like 98,000 away, so we're getting close,
All right.
right?
Not far.
98,500 away. We're so close.
Not far. You never know what can happen, right? Stuff can happen pretty quick, pretty fast once you get into that
That's
compounding stuff there. So yeah.
That's right. Exactly. There it is there. The Passive Income Posse is aiming to be 100,000 strong on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. Might have to change that to 2025, but I'm okay with resetting my goals, right?
That's right. That's what they're for. Hit them, reset them, hit them again, miss them, hit them, reset them. Just keep moving forward.
And just one final shout out there to Millionaire Mentorship. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of the Passive Income Podcast. And again, Grater you, thank you so much for being a guest on this episode of the Passive Income Podcast.
Thank you, Dave.
And if you're still here over fear, we were joking about it, but now I'm serious. Subscribe.
Subscribe.